All right. Good morning, everybody. I'm back. This will be part two of the video or administrative agencies unconstitutional. So this will be part two of that video. So let's go. Where am I going? Here. We'll go here. Well, no, let's go. Where's that case at? Is this it? I think it's this one. Yeah. Okay. So let me go up here right quick. I want to show you the case citation. This is from 2002. This is an Alabama Supreme Court case. And you can find this if you go to the law library. You can find this in volume 832, South Second Edition, and it'll be on page 61. Okay, I'm not gonna read all of this up here. I'm not gonna read that. I would advise y'all to go and read it. But I don't want to confuse anybody. I don't like to do that. I try my best not to do that. I just want to focus on um, what Chief Justice Roy Moore is saying. Also, I don't even like Roy Moore, but I agree with what he's saying in here. Um, Before I begin with that, um, I'm gonna focus on this, and I'm gonna say this. This is from I want to say this is from Thomas Jefferson or something like that. Before I elaborate on this, me personally, I do not. Who is it? Is it looks like James Madison? Oh, okay, sorry, but anyway, I do not support these types of men or whatever, these so-called founding fathers. They were rapists, thieves, liars, murderers, so on and so forth. So I do not support these men. However, I do agree with some of the things that they were saying, because although they were rapists, murderers, and thieves, and so on and so forth, they were also intelligent. So I'm not going to overlook the fact that they were intelligent either. But anyway, this is what he says. Um, he says I'm gonna focus on this right here. The accumulation of all powers, legislative, executive, and judiciary, in the same hands, whether of one, a few, or many, and whether hereditary, meaning they were just born in it, self-appointed, meaning they appointed themselves to have that authority, or elective, meaning people voted for them to have that authority, may justly be pronounced the very definition of tyranny. If you don't know what the definition of tyranny is, I would strongly advise you to look that up. Now let's get back to here. Okay. This is Roy Moore. This is his special concurring with what up here. In other words, although he agrees with the court's holding everything up here, he's going to tell you what's wrong with it, why he doesn't really agree with it. Okay, that's what I'm going to focus on here. That'll be the main purpose of this video. Um, I fully join the opinion of the court. I write separately to explain what I believe are fundamental problems illustrated by a case such as this one. That's why he's writing. Okay. The procedural issues presented in this case are inherent in the nature of agency regulation. In this case, we find fault with the failure of the Alabama Department of Environmental Management, that is an administrative agency, by the way, that's an agency, to comply with the requirements of the Alabama Administrative Procedure Act, okay, like its federal counterpart, the AAPA, which is another word for Alabama Administrative Procedure Act, exists to bring a level of legitimacy to what is inherently illegitimate exercise of power in our constitutional system. In essence, the Alabama Administrative Procedure Act requires administrative agencies to give public notice and an opportunity for public comment on proposed regulations before those regulations can take effect. The Alabama Administrative Procedure Act was adopted in 1981 as a minimum procedural code for the operation of all state agencies when they take action affecting the rights and duties of the public. It was based in part upon the revised Model State Administrative Procedure Act 1961. And he's citing his authority for saying what he's saying. Okay. The purpose of the Alabama Administrative Procedure Act can be found in Section 41 22 2B in the Alabama Code of 1975, right here. And including providing legislative oversight of powers and duties delegated to administrative agencies and increasing public accountability of administrative agencies. These are laudable goals given the current paradigm of administrative agencies and the powers they possess. And it is for these reasons that I concur with the opinion of the court. He goes on to say, however, in reality, the Alabama Administrative Procedure Act merely serves as a band-aid stretching over a laceration in our constitutional system. Agencies, in their present form, are the laceration and have aptly been described as the fourth branch of government. Okay. Historically and traditionally, the constitutions of all the states and of the United States have separated the powers of government into three branches: the legislative and executive. The legislative, executive, and the judicial. Section 42 of our Constitution of 1901 and its precursors in our previous Constitution is but a reflection of this settled principle. State government is divided into three coordinate branches: legislative, judicial, and executive. Each has a sphere of action, and within that sphere, each is and must be regarded as supreme. Powers confided to one cannot be exercised by the others. Just to let y'all know, administrative agencies are a part of the executive branch of government. That is what they are. Inherent in the constitutional establishment of three, and only three distinct branches of government, is the concept of the non-delegation of power. It is settled law that the legislature may not constitutionally delegate its powers, whether the general power to make law or the powers encompassed with that general power. The principle of the non-delegation of powers prevents the exercise of unauthorized power, the exercise which is contrary to the established nature of a republic. In a republic, the people are sovereign, just to let y'all know. The people are sovereign in a republic. This is not a democracy, it is a republic. And in a republic, the people are sovereign. Not public servants, they are not sovereign. They're public servants, they are trustees because the Constitution is a trust. Under this principle, Congress and state legislatures cannot delegate their lawmaking power. I want y'all to pay attention to this, because that power ultimately does not belong to them. That's because it belongs to the people, just to let y'all know. Thus, it is not theirs to delegate. The legislative bodies derive their powers to make laws from the people's consent to submit to the legislature's promulgation of those laws. Governments derive their just powers from the consent of the governed. That means the people. Declaration of Independence. Okay. Through the United States Constitution and their state constitutions, the people have granted to the three branches of government certain limited powers with the understanding that those branches are in some measure controlled by the people. Okay, I want y'all to understand that. That is because you are sovereign. Just to let y'all know, if you were not sovereign, they would not need your permission to change the Constitution. You're sovereign. Just to let y'all know. Excuse me. For the legislature to delegate its lawmaking powers to unelected bodies, such as administrative agencies, is to distort and perhaps even destroy that understanding that exists between the government and the people. It is unacceptable as the judiciary is usurping the legislature's lawmaking power. Indeed, having an unelected, unaccountable body making and enforcing, Indeed, having an unelected, unaccountable body making and enforcing the laws is the very definition of tyranny. Scroll down some more because I want y'all to understand this. Traffic court is an administrative court. District court is an administrative court. Circuit court is an administrative court. In other words, they're not really courts, they're agencies because they are enforcing statutes and they are following statutory procedure. That is what they are doing. And if you watch that first video, it tells you that statutes are distinguished from common law because they are not operating under common law jurisdiction, just to let y'all know. This principle of non-delegation has been compromised by the establishment of administrative agencies. The first of these agencies was the Interstate Commerce Commission created by Congress in 1887. However, agencies did not establish a permanent place in our system of government until the passage of New Deal legislation during Franklin D. Roosevelt's presidency. Congress established agencies out of a desire to ease the suffering caused by the Great Depression. Another laudable goal, but the price for good intentions was a diminishing of legislative and by implication the people's power. Before this boom in administrative agencies, regulation was effected primarily through the enforcement of the laws by the existing apparatus of the executive branch. The statutes were interpreted primarily by the courts, as it should be. The change in circumstances brought on by the Great Depression seemingly necessitated a change in the method of making laws and was used by federal bureaucrats as an occasion to expand their power. The focus in lawmaking changed by enabling organized action to injecting more public management or supervision of affairs and providing more sustained specialized means of defining and enforcing public policy. The result of this change at the federal level alone has been enormous. Federal agencies adjudicate far more disputes involving individual rights than do the federal courts. Damn, I didn't even know that. That's crazy. They create more binding rules of conduct than Congress. Agencies also administer in the broadest sense of that word. They investigate, enforce, cajole, publicize, spin, hire, fire, contract, collect information, and disseminate information. Courts accommodate the change in the landscape wrought by the creation of these lawmaking agencies by carving out an exception to the principle of non-delegation, meaning you cannot delegate your legislative authority except under these circumstances. That's what they mean. And here's the exception right here. So long as the legislature shall lay down by legislative act an intelligible principle to which the person or body authorized to exercise the delegated authority is directed to conform, such legislative action is not forbidden delegation of legislative power, which I do not agree with that at all. This is known as the intelligible principle exception to the principle of non-delegation. In theory, requiring an intelligible principle before the authority to execute and administer the law could be delegated sounds reasonable. In practice, however, it proves to be the equivalent of giving administrative agencies a blank check. Under this exception, the United States Supreme Court on several occasions have upheld extremely broad delegations of power, upholding Congress's statutory delegation of broad power to the Federal Sentencing Commission, which is an administrative agency, to issue binding guidelines for sentencing of all persons convicted of federal crimes, upholding the delegation to the Secretary of Transportation of the authority to calculate and impose a tax on all persons operating pipelines, upholding the delegation of the EPA of the authority to set national ambient air quality standards under the Clean Air Act at levels requisite to protect public health. The effect of these holdings is to impose virtually no limits on what responsibilities Congress may delegate to an administrative agency. In a sense, whenever a legislative body enacts a law, it delegates power to an executive branch to execute that command. A certain degree of discretion and thus lawmaking inheres in most executive or judicial actions. However, the legislature does not give up any power in this type of delegation because it has no power to execute the laws it enacts. Both the United States Constitution and state constitutions assign the responsibility of enforcing the laws to the executive branch. The delegation of power to agencies, however, encompasses a completely different type of delegation. It involves giving agencies the powers possessed by the existing branches of government. Indeed, the three main functions of an agency are rulemaking, enforcement of its rules and regulations, and adjudications of disputes that flow from the violations of its rules and regulations. These are functions traditionally held by the three branches of government. Agencies are saturated with mixtures of legislative, executive, and judicial powers. I think I'm going to read a little bit more, just a little bit more, and then I'm going to stop because I want y'all to see how important this is. Okay. Rulemaking by agencies is a prime example. Scores of agencies exercise legislative power routinely by promulgating what are candidly called legislative rules. Legislative rules are enforceable after public notice and an opportunity for public comment, have the same binding effect as statutes. Thus, administrative regulations are simply laws by another name. This court has previously admitted as such. Administrative agencies are often given the power to make rules and regulations, which in effect are delegations of the legislative. Delegations of the legislative power of the state. In a very real sense, then agencies have become a fourth branch of government, something that is, as courts have put it, contrary to the genius of Republican government. Permitting agencies to enact what are, in effect, if not in name, laws defeats the basic principle of a Republican form of government. One writer has said that there are four essential characteristics of a Republican form of government: the existence of the ultimate sovereignty in the body politic, the expression of the popular will by the method of representation, subservience of the entire group to the will of the majority, and four, the independence of the executive, legislative, and judicial departments of government. Administrative law is not an expression of the popular will produced through the labors of elected representatives. Despite the protestations of its supporters that agency accountability exists through the elected head of the executive branch, the bureaucratic nature of and the broad discretion given to agencies makes any sort of accountability difficult at best and and impossible where independent agencies are concerned. I think I'm gonna stop right there. Stop right there. If y'all want to read that, the rest of it, y'all can go ahead. Um, I would I would advise y'all to go ahead and read that. But that is the problem with administrative agencies. These courts are administrative agencies. That is what they are. In the Alabama Administrative Procedure Act, if you go and look up the definition for agency, matter of fact, let's do that right now. Because I don't want I don't want people to think I'm lying. Motherfuckers think I just make shit up. So let's go and look that up. Oh yeah, right here. I think it's Title 41 or Title 42. So we gonna look all this up because I want y'all to see this. State government. I think it's 22. Administrative procedure. There we go. Here we go. And we're going to go to the definitions. Okay. The following words and phrases, when used in this chapter, shall have the meanings respectively ascribed to them in this section, except when the context otherwise requires. Okay. Agency. Every board, bureau, commission, department, officer, or other administrative officer or unit of the state, including the Alabama Department of Environmental Management, other than the legislature and its agencies, the Alabama State Port Authority, which is they're naming all of the administrative agencies in the Alabama Administrative Procedure Act. In other words, they're telling you every agency that is subject to this act. Okay. Here's where you stop right here. The courts. Y'all see that right there? That is a very, 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 very vague definition for courts. Which courts are you talking about? That's a general basic stating, because there's no capitalization in here at all. And if you don't think that capitalizing this C in the word courts means something, you crazy. You just don't know what you're talking about. Matter of fact, let me see if I can find it. Where is it at? Law of 11 circuits or admiralty pleading show checklist. Let me see. Let me see if it's on this other one. If you don't think that means something, you lost, buddy. Because it means something. I'm going to see if I can find it. Because I got the cases to prove it, that it means something. That ain't it. That ain't it either. So I must have. Oh, okay. It's probably not going to pull up because I'm doing one. That's weird. Anyway, I'll do that on another video. But they're very specific when they capitalize the first letter in words. They are very, very, very specific with that. So I'm convinced that all of these are, all of these courts are administrative courts. I know the municipal court is. I already know that. But anyway, that'll be it. That'll be the end of this video. Hopefully it helped you out. I would advise all of y'all to go and study administrative agencies and find out. If you disagree with anything that I've said in this video, if you think I'm wrong about something, that's okay. That's fine to disagree. Let me know. Cite me the authority, and I'll change my video. I'll probably take it down or something if I need to, because I don't want to put out the wrong information. But anyway, the Supreme Litigant is out. Peace.